asked a question yesterday, and I'm going to ask it again today a couple more times. The question is basically this. Is it really possible to separate the ideas of politics and belief? Is that really something that you can do? We're going to talk on the subject of politics and beliefs on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Friday, the 25th of March of 2022. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page. That's the Kurt's Religion and Politics page on Facebook, on kurtzreligionandpolitics.locals.com, on minds.com, on the Kurt's Religion and Politics group, primarily there, on Parler, on Gab, on Twitter, or wherever else you happen to be joining me this morning. Welcome aboard. Again, the subject for today is politics and beliefs. Let me go ahead and get through my notes. Okay, let's go ahead and do that so that we set our little baseline for what we're talking about. I have a simple question. In fact, I have a couple. The first question is, do you honestly know anybody who doesn't have some core set of beliefs under which he or she operates? I hope not, by the way. The second is, considering that first question, do you seriously believe you either can or should try to bar them from operating on such beliefs when functioning in public life? Am I trying to say there aren't folks out there who I would, if I were a voter, work to keep out of public office? Not at all. Of course I would. There are those people I would work to keep out of public office. And frankly, the basis for doing so should be their beliefs. I'm sorry to tell you this, but if a Muslim is committed to the idea of imposing Sharia law on anyone, yes, that includes other Muslims, I'm not in support of him or her doing that as a public official. You might think I'm being discriminatory. You'd be correct. That said, I don't believe equally that Christians should impose their beliefs on others either. I understand the argument that the moral underpinning for the U.S., the states of the United States included, is essentially Christian. I get that. If I felt that what was being asked or required was not superior regardless its origin, I wouldn't support it being the law of the land. When people try to do things like passing laws saying you must go to church on Sunday, I'm not in agreement. Frankly, I don't even support the blue law concept that a lot of states have. If you ask me whether or not murder should be legal, or frankly abortion, which to me is murder, the solid answer from my perspective is no. We should be examining all laws to see whether or not they're beneficial. Shoplifting laws are an example of one with which I strongly agree. Now you may ask why. Let me help you. I can cite multiple reasons for the existence of such rules. Besides that, it means you're not taking something you don't own, and that's a very important consideration. Stealing causes someone who has worked to possess something legally to lose possession of that thing after having done all of that work to gain it. Whether you couch that as a Christian belief or not, I'm pretty sure most, if not all, folks will agree with it conceptually. The founders carefully stated the establishment of a state religion was not to occur. I get that. And I'm not saying it should, by the way, though I'll point out that that was intended to be the case on a federal level. The states were intended to decide matters on their own. And some states, at the time that law was written on the federal level, that rule was written on the federal level, some states had state religions, okay, as people have pointed out. I'm not saying I believe such a thing should exist, on a federal or a state level. I don't believe that it should, the establishment of a religion. Even so, expecting lawmakers or judges or executives to toss out their beliefs, particularly when they don't conflict with the law, is purely inane and, if you'll allow me to say so, insane as well. As well as more or less impossible for someone who really believes something. If you really believe it, you're not going to just toss it out. What does that mean in finality? Best watch who gets in office to ensure they're not going to do and say things with which you don't agree, in which you don't believe. Okay, I'm done with my notes. Look, asking somebody to put aside sincerely held beliefs and govern or make law or execute the law, that is, carry it out, or judge, and just totally ditch their beliefs. Asking somebody to do that is not something any sane or sensible human being ought to think reasonable. I get that there are people out there with beliefs that are incompatible with public office. There's a simple answer for that, what that means to me. What that means to me is that person shouldn't be in public office. If you find that my beliefs are inconsistent with me being in public office, I shouldn't be in public office. When you're given the opportunity to say yay or nay to me being in public office, you should say nay. Okay? You should be against me doing so if, and this is the point, if you find that my beliefs are inconsistent with public office, with my maintaining public office in the United States. I don't care if it's a judge. I don't care if it's a police officer. I don't care if it's a legislator somewhere. I don't care who it is. If you think that their beliefs are inconsistent with their being in public office, if they work under their beliefs, don't assume that they're going to put their beliefs to the side and work outside of them. I don't care what they say about that. I don't care. You can count on the fact that at maybe some unconscious or subconscious level, they are going to allow their beliefs to rule over them. And if they don't, by the way, their beliefs aren't worth very much. I think I've said this before. I probably have. But I want it to be very clear. Look, you're not going to separate politics and beliefs. You're just not going to do it. It's not going to happen. Stop thinking it. Stop trying it. It's not going to happen. And what that means is, if you have to look at somebody, look at what they believe on a personal level, on the most personal of levels, if you have to. It's not if you have to, you must look at that. You must learn who that person is, and that's even more important than their supposed belief in a given political party or whatever, in my personal belief. I don't think you should be as worried about whether or not a person has an R, a D, an I, or whatever next to their name. I think what you should be doing is looking at what they believe. And part of that should be their stated record and their voting and so forth, if you have that sort of thing to look at. But really what you should be able to do is look at what that person believes in an underlying way. And maybe they say they believe this, and you have to look at them and go, no, that person really doesn't believe that. Right? Maybe. But my point is simple. If a person believes something, you can bet your bottom dollar that that person is going to act according to those beliefs. And if they don't believe it very much, do they? That person, a person's beliefs, should be borne out in their public record. And part of what that means, by the way, is if that person does something different than what they say they believe, they don't really believe what they say they believe. Okay? All right. I need to go and wrap things up. This is the Daily Summation. This has been the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Friday, the 25th of March of 2022. That would be the beginning of the Sabbath at sundown, at sunset, if you will, today. For those of you who observe it, I hope that you have a good Sabbath. Tomorrow will then be Saturday, the 26th of March of 2022. Making sure that I have my dates right today. I mess that up periodically. Thank you for having come along, whether on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page, which is the Kurt's Religion and Politics page on Facebook, on kurtzreligionandpolitics.locals.com, on minds.com, primarily on the Kurt's Religion and Politics group there, on Parler, on Gab, on Twitter, wherever else you might be finding me today. The subject for today has been politics and beliefs. Tomorrow we're going to talk about a subject that I think a lot of people have come to the conclusion is a proper one, and I'm going to tell you that the subject is, it's not, quote, playing devil's advocate in a sense, but it's explaining why the idea of an evil God is not a good one. We'll talk about it tomorrow. I had a thought just then about particularly the book of Job in the Bible that sort of talks about all of this, but I'll talk about it more tomorrow, and maybe I'll bring that up again when I talk about it. Main thing is, though, that is what I'm going to talk about tomorrow, is an evil God. That's what the subject is going to be. And it's sort of a question, and it's sort of something that like I say, we'll talk about, and I'll answer that question as best I can tomorrow. Hope that you're having a good day today. Hope everything is going well for you in this 2022 year. Hopefully things are kind of digging out from the trench that they've been in for some time now. There are many who argue that that's maybe not going to happen. I'm going to do what I can to make it happen, regardless what anybody else has to say about that. I hope, though, that I will see you again on Saturday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This podcast was recorded on Friday, the 25th of March of 2022. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching today's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back tomorrow to check out the next one. Remember, on various platforms, primarily Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub, and the audio podcast, you can subscribe to my content. For the audio podcast, you probably want to use Apple, Google, or Spotify. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. In order to find me on those platforms, you can go to the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub. You can also get to my content on Facebook by finding the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there. minds.com, where you will find me at the Kurt's Religion and Politics group, and Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com as well. You can look there. I post my daily video on various social media sites, really only about 3, Parler, Gab, and Twitter at present. I am at KP Schubert on each of them, and you can find me under them, and you can find the videos under me. You should be able to find my podcasts on Google and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's also on podcasts.kpschubert.com. That's podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. If you're looking for me on various of the podcast sites, you probably want to search Kurt's Religion and Politics, not the Daily Summation. Keep in mind you can subscribe to my content on various places that I put it. All constructive feedback is welcome. You can like, dislike, add a rumble, or give whatever feedback is available on any of the platforms that you can do such things. You can also add a comment on what I put there. Unless you're advertising or doing something that I believe will harm others, I'll leave your comments out there even if I don't agree with or understand them. I will try to let you know I've seen them when possible and may reply if I feel it's reasonable, appropriate, and possible, of course. Thanks again for viewing this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back again for tomorrow's as well.